The wind howled across the frozen prairie like something alive, clawing at the lonely cabin crouched beside a stand of leafless cottonwoods. Snow drifted against the walls in pale waves, sealing the little homestead from the rest of the world. Inside, Miriam Holt stirred a pot of thin stew over the iron stove, her hands rough from years of chopping wood and scrubbing floors, her movements slow with the exhaustion that had become her companion since the war took her husband and both her children in the same bitter winter. Silence lived with her now, thick, heavy silence, broken only by the crackle of firewood and the ticking of the clock she kept wound though it measured nothing she cared to count anymore. Outside, dusk bled into night, the sky bruised purple and gray, when she heard it, a knock. Not the casual rap of a traveler asking for directions, but something desperate, uneven, weak, followed by a long pause, then another. Miriam froze, ladle hovering over the pot. No one came this far unless they were lost, or dangerous. She reached for the shotgun leaning near the door and called out, her voice steadier than she felt. "Who's there?" Wind answered first. Then a voice, low, strained, thick with cold and exhaustion. "Woman, please. Help." She opened the shutter a crack and peered out. A tall figure swayed on her porch, wrapped in a buffalo hide crusted with ice. Snow clung to his braids and lashes. In his arms, bundled close to his chest, was something small, too still. Moonlight revealed the warrior's face, sharp cheekbones, hollowed with hunger, eyes burning with a terror that cut through every story she'd ever heard about Lakota raiders. This was not a man come to threaten. This was a father at the end of hope. He sank to one knee. "My child," he whispered. "No milk. She dying." Miriam's heart hammered. Every instinct screamed caution, yet another voice, older, deeper, rose inside her, the voice that had carried her through burying two tiny graves behind this very cabin. She flung the door open. "Bring her inside. Now." Warmth rushed out into the night as the warrior staggered over the threshold. He hesitated, scanning the small room, the table, the stove, the crucifix nailed crooked above the mantel. Miriam slammed the door behind him and slid the bolt. "Lay her here," she said, pulling a quilt from the bed. He knelt and unwrapped the bundle. A baby girl emerged, skin pale, lips bluish, eyes barely fluttering. Her cry came weak as breath fog. Miriam sucked in a sharp breath. How long since she ate? The warrior swallowed. 2 sons. Her mother, gone. Snowstorm took our camp. I rode until Horsefall. Miriam pressed fingers to the child's chest, too light, too shallow. Panic surged. She had no cow. No goat. Only powdered milk ration for herself, and that was nearly gone. She mixed what she could with warm water and dripped it from a spoon, but the baby barely swallowed. The warrior watched, fists clenched, shoulders shaking. "Please," he said again, softer. "She is all I have." Miriam closed her eyes. Then memory hit her like a fist, the ache in her breasts when her own infant daughter had died, the milk that had soaked uselessly into cloth while her baby lay cold. She stared at the starving child and made a decision that scared her more than the armed man in her cabin ever could. She unbuttoned her blouse. The warrior stiffened. "What are you?" "Hush," she said. "If she won't take spoon, maybe she'll take this." She drew the baby close, guiding her mouth gently. For a moment nothing happened. Then the tiny jaw moved. The child latched. Miriam's breath shuddered out as sensation, half pain, half miracle, shot through her. Tears blurred her vision. The baby suckled greedily, hands curling in the fabric of Miriam's shirt. The warrior stared as if witnessing a vision. You feed her." Miriam nodded, swallowing. "Looks that way." He bowed his head so low his forehead touched the floorboards. "Whacken, holy," he whispered. "You save her life." Hours passed. The storm screamed outside while inside, Warmth gathered around the stove, around the quilt, around the fragile miracle of a baby breathing stronger with every swallow. Miriam kept feeding her until the child slept, belly round, cheeks faintly pink. Only then did the warrior speak again. "My name is Tokala." "Wolf." "Miriam." He looked at her with something like awe and terror. "My people, they would kill for what you have done." She met his gaze. Steadily. "So would mine." Silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken histories written in blood and rumor. Tokala shifted. "I leave before morning. I will not bring danger to you." Miriam looked at the sleeping baby. "You're not taking her back into that storm." He flinched. "She belongs to my people." "She belongs alive," Miriam snapped. "She needs warmth. Milk. Shelter." Tokala's jaw tightened. "You think I do not know?" They stared at each other, grief and pride colliding like flint and steel. Finally, exhaustion crushed the fight out of him. He sagged onto a chair, head in his hands. "My wife named her Ayana," he whispered. "Eternal bloom." Miriam brushed the baby's cheek. "She can stay the night," she said quietly. Tokala lifted his eyes. "One night," she added. "We'll see what morning brings." And outside, unseen in the snow-choked darkness, riders moved. Miriam woke before dawn. The fire had burned low. Gray light leaked through the frost-coated windowpanes. Ayana whimpered softly in Miriam's arms, rooting instinctively, and Miriam fed her again while Tokala slept upright in the chair, knife loose in his hand even in dreams. When the baby finished, Miriam gently laid her back on the quilt. Then she heard it. Horses. Not one. Many. Her blood went cold. She crossed to the window and scraped frost aside. Shadows slid across the snow, dozens of them, figures wrapped in hides, mounted, silent as ghosts. Lakota. Tokala jolted awake at the same moment. One look at Miriam's face told him everything. He moved to the window, inhaled sharply. "My band." Relief flickered in Miriam, then fear followed close behind. "They won't hurt you," he said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. She grabbed the shotgun anyway. Hooves stopped outside. A voice rang out in Lakota, strong, commanding. Tokala stepped onto the porch before Miriam could stop him, raising one hand. Words flew back and forth too fast for her to catch, sharp with urgency. Then an older man dismounted. Gray hair braided with feathers. Eyes hard as flint. He looked past Tokala. At Miriam. And at the baby in her arms. The murmurs rose like wind through grass. Tokala spoke again, voice fierce, gesturing to Miriam, to Ayana. The elder stared a long moment. Then, he walked forward. Miriam stood in the doorway, spine straight, shotgun lowered but visible. "She saved my daughter," Tokala said in broken English. "Fed her with her own body." The elder studied Miriam, her thin face, worn dress, trembling hands. Slowly, he placed his palm over his heart. "You give life," he said. The warriors lowered their weapons. Relief crashed over Miriam so hard she nearly sagged. The elder stepped closer, gaze softening as he looked at Ayana. "She lives because of you." Tokala knelt. "Let her stay until strong." The elder hesitated. Then nodded. "She has two mothers now." Tears burned Miriam's eyes. Days turned into weeks. Tokala returned often, bringing meat, hides, firewood. He fixed Miriam's roof. Mended her fence. Stood watch when wolves prowled too near. Ayana grew plump and bright-eyed. Miriam laughed again. Neighbors whispered, but none dared trouble a widow guarded by a Lakota warrior and his band. Spring melted the snow. Grass pushed green through white. One morning Tokala stood at the door longer than usual. "My people move south," he said. Miriam's chest tightened. "But I come back. Always." She nodded, though part of her feared goodbyes too much to trust them. He hesitated, then placed a beaded necklace in her palm. "For Ayana's other mother." Years later, travelers would speak of a cabin on the prairie where hatred died, and a child was saved by a woman who refused to let old wars decide who deserved mercy. If this story moved you, if you believe courage and kindness can change the Wild West, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications for more powerful frontier tales of survival, love, and redemption.